this video, we're going to talk about the fact that digital advertising is broken. And that kind of pains me to say it, but I think we need to come to terms with it as an industry if we're going to be able to move forward. So we're going to head into the think tank and break it down, share some stats with you. Welcome to the think tank. This is where all the thinking happens. Big ideas, big thinking, big space, big whiteboard. We're here today talking about the fact that digital advertising is broken. And we're going to look at that from a few different perspectives today. And I've got it listed out behind me on the board here. But starting, we're going to talk about some industry stats. And our friends here at Proxima have published some really interesting stats that I think tell the story for us. Starting with the fact that 60% of digital ad spend is wasted. That's $37 billion. That is like a spike in my heart. It kills me. That's something I feel like we've got to address. $37 billion in wasted ad spend. We used to say, it was a joke that I know I'm wasting half of my ad budget, I just don't know which half. And in digital advertising, that's supposed to have gone away. Everything is so measurable and targeted, right? Nope, not happening. 60% still wasted. Kills me. Next stat, 54%. 54% of ad impressions never seen by a human. Yeah, that's who we want to see in the ads. It's humans. Over half of them not ever seen by a human. That's from Google themselves acknowledging that. I think symptomatic of a problem. And lastly, this one absolutely destroys me, 0.17%. That's the global average click-through rate for all display ads. Horrible. If that's the best we can do. And it speaks to a problem with relevancy and targeting, creative effectiveness, I think. But if that's really the best we can do, we really are spamming people and we're failing as an industry. I think making the point that digital advertising is broken. All right, let's look at it from another perspective. Our own experience and our own research here at Closed Loop indicates that there's a real lack of consistency out there in terms of how campaigns are architected. We've run hundreds of audits of different advertising campaigns over time. And one of the ways that we look at things is this idea, we call it the shape of the campaign. But what it really is a visual means representing the overall budget allocation and ROI distribution of campaigns, where size is indicative of spend and color is ROI. Red is bad, blue is good. And you're not going to get anything out of each of these individual audits or infographics, but I stacked up 12 of them randomly that I picked here just to make the case that from a big picture perspective, there's no consistency in terms of how all of these campaigns are architected. And these are all 12 campaigns operating at pretty good scale. Yet they look nothing alike. The winners don't look like winners, losers don't look like losers. They're all over the map. And the fact that during a time when you'd think digital advertising would have matured and you'd have a little more in the way of consistency, the reality behind the scenes is that it's just not the case. It's all over the place. No one's quite sure how to do this right. And the answer isn't, of course, to have a single cookie cutter approach, but you sure would expect to have more consistency than is indicated by the data and the evidence that we ourselves have seen out there. All right, let's look at what that means for individual advertisers out there. This is a way of looking at things I like to call the opportunity landscape. You've got to understand where you're starting from and what's possible for you before you can evaluate how best to prioritize your resources and set your targets. So my hypothesis is that most advertisers are settling for incrementality and trying to get the most out of their campaigns based on where they're starting from, which makes a certain amount of sense. But by doing that, they might be blind to an even better opportunity available to them on an adjacent hill. Maybe it's behind them, maybe they just can't see it. But they're struggling, they're scratching and clawing to get every bit they can out of their campaigns, settling for their local Proxima, not appreciating there might be a global Proxima that could give them much better results. And I think that starts to explain why some advertisers who make it to this point look at a couple of their competitors who seem to be always killing them in terms of overall volume and ROI, and they don't know how they're doing it. Well, again, my hypothesis is that they're playing a different game. They've re-architected their campaigns to take advantage of the latest thinking about how these ad platforms are architected. And that's allowing them to dramatically outperform the rest of their industry. So I want to see all of you operate at this level, fight the right battle, and get the absolute most you can out of your campaigns. And that, I think, is available to most advertisers once you acknowledge that digital advertising is broken and you start to address some of the issues that I talked about already. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.